Looking to stock up on high-quality Ayurvedic herbs? I've partnered with two of my trusted sources, Kerala Ayurveda and Gary and Son, to offer you 20% off their entire range of authentic products. From classical formulas to single herbs and seasonal must-haves, these are staples I use in my own practice. Use code Ojas Oasis for Kerala Ayurveda, Ojas Oasis 20 for Gary and Son. Links are in the show notes. Supporting your healing journey just got a little bit easier. In Ayurveda, nourishment isn't only about what we take in for the body, but also what we offer the heart. That's why we're honored to share Aura Cacao, a ceremonial grade cacao we've chosen as a dharmic partner for the Ojas Oasis community. Aura Cacao supports meditation, heart-opening rituals, and moments of conscious presence. As an exclusive gift for our listeners, use Ojas Oasis 20 for 20% off, and you'll find the link in the show notes. Welcome to Ojas Oasis, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets the modern being. I'm your host, Sasha Ayurvedic doctor and guide on this journey into the heart of holistic wellness. Today's episode is one that feels especially relevant to the world we're living in right now. We're diving into the intersection of Ayurvedic psychology and modern personality frameworks, exploring how the ancient wisdom of the gunas can be understood through the lens of the 16 classical personality types. I am joined by Freedom Cole, our first ever two-time guest on the show. Together, we unpack how the subtle subdivisions of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas don't just live within us individually, but actively shape how we think, communicate, and show up in the modern social media landscape. We explore how these personality patterns are playing out in real time and the way we relate to one another in an increasingly polarized world. If you are an Ayurvedic practitioner, this episode will give you a more nuanced way to understand your clients. And if you are simply trying to make sense of human behavior right now, this will offer a grounding Ayurvedic lens to do just that. Let's get to our chat. Wow, this is the first time we have had a guest twice on the show. And of course, it had to be Freedom Cole because Freedom, I don't know if you, well, no, I do remind you of this from time to time, but your series is still our highest rated episode of all time in 4 years. More people have listened to our Heal Trauma with Ayurveda episode than any other episode. So people love it. And I'm so happy to have you back.
And it's a topic, again, in the mental health realm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mental health and personality dynamics or character, temperament.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at Ayurvedic temperament here, which is something that is, sometimes I'll search and I'll look and I'll say, so what are other people saying about this topic? And I don't know, did you search this topic? Did you find anything?
Not anything near as comprehensive as I know you have gone, because I saw you give your presentation on this at NAMA last year in Dallas. And I mean, I saw you try to condense.
I had 20 minutes because it was a panel, right?
Don't know how.
And so at CAM, at the California Association of Ayurvedic Medicine conference this coming weekend, I have 50 minutes. So 50 minutes I can do justice. Here.
Okay.
20 was a little tight. It was tight. And we can spend a whole day on this topic. If we wanted to really be fully utilizing this.
100%.
And it's going to be a chapter. One of these days I'm going to publish my Ayurveda, yoga therapy, Jyotish, mental health psychology book. And this will be a chapter in it. So it'll be available, the information.
Integrative psychology. I love it. We need it. So today we're going to be talking about the Ayurvedic personality types. And through the lens of Ayurveda, obviously, we're talking about the 3 gunas. the three qualities of the mind. And for listeners, just to kick off, for listeners that are new to the gunas, how would you explain Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas in just simple real life? Maybe perhaps we use some Western psychology kind of parallels between these three.
The thing about the gunas is they can apply to everything. Mm-hmm. And if we apply them to simple food, sattva is the fresh food picked, it's ready, it's the perfect time to eat it. Rajasic food is that fruit that was picked too early. Tamasic food is the fruit that's been too long. Mm-hmm. And that same analogy of too much, too fast, too soon, like not waiting, there wasn't the patience, the perfect timing, the balance, and then the issue, it's gone too long, there's not, it hasn't been dealt with. That tone falls into every area. We could put it into medicines, we could put it into a yoga practice, we could put it into a spiritual system. There's Tamas spiritual systems, there's Raja spiritual systems. When we put it into the mental health realm, it actually takes on a different name. Because if you have a sattva personality, the Ayurvedic texts don't actually call it sattva, they call it kalyana. So if you have a sattva personality, it means you're an agreeable person. That's the word. So an agreeable person. And that would, for people who are aware of attachment style, that shows up as secure attachment. So sattva is secure attachment or this agreeable nature. And often in the Ayurveda psychology world, people focus on vata, pitta, and kapha. And they talk about pittas get angry, kaphas are lazy, vatas they're skittish, and mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct, but that's a physiological tendency. Mm-hmm. And the actual Ayurvedic personalities are a mix of the guna that your mind is, the physical state that the body is, as well as the nature of the soul, the nature of the person that's in it. And this is according to Charaka Samhita. It says it's based upon the guna of the mind, the nature of the physical body, and Charaka, he just says, and the birth nature. That's kind of what he's saying. Basically, your birth nature. But what does that birth nature mean? It's this deeper inherent part of yourself. It's the family you were born into, the culture you were born into. And then there's this part of you that is slightly different than your family. Everyone from your family is not the same. So those three things are creating the mental constitution or the manas prakriti. So that manas prakriti is not vata, pitta, kapha. And it's not rajas, tamas, sattva. It's a combination of these three factors. And in that combination of the three factors, we're getting a whole different system of, and we could call it a system of psychology, as a system of personality. If we actually break down the word personality, character, types, it's closer to temperament. We're getting these different temperaments, or we could just call it mental constitution if we want it to be very Ayurvedic and direct translate. And so if we take the Rajas, Tamas, Sattva at this level, right? Mm-hmm. The mental types are divided first into 3 and then in the 16. And so the first 3 divisions are the Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. And as we said before, the Sattva, it's an agreeable person. When you go to talk to them, they're rational, they're balanced, they listen to you and respond according to what you said. Then there's the Rajas type is called Rosha when it comes to psychological types. So that Rosha is a person that they run anxious. They're easily triggered. You're saying something, you go to talk to them, and something you said to them kind of pushed the wrong button. And so now they're not listening to you anymore. They're going off dealing with their own issue that you triggered without fully listening to you. So that's the Rajas or the Rosha personality type. They're also, they go into the realm of controlling. It's that Rosha that tries to control. They're triggered. They don't want to be triggered. So they try and control. And they each have their own. And when I say when we break it down into the 16, each of these variations has their own type of way of controlling or manipulating, depending on how much rajas is there. And then the tamas type, they're called moha, which on one level means, some people would say illusion or things of that nature. Some people would say stupefied. They're just whatever. You talk to them and they don't even remember what you were talking about. Or you talk to them, once you get done talking, they're like, yeah, and did you see how good the sports team did this weekend? And you're like, did you not hear everything I shared with you? Are you not listening? And they're like, I heard everything, but it was like, yeah. And so that's the moha. It goes into the attachment theory in Western psychology as the avoidant type. Mm-hmm. They're just not really taking on and connecting, and it's easier for them to disconnect or disassociate than actually participate. So those are our first three. So the rajas, tamas, and sattva give us the agreeable, fully present with you personality. The rajas gives us this anxious, easily triggered personality. And the tamas gives us this not really connecting, trying too hard, kind of in their own world personality. So that's the rajas, tamas, sattva when we bring it into the manas prakriti level, right? Very different than if we're looking at a piece of fruit or these other areas where we are applying the gunas.
Feeling drained, stressed, or stuck in old patterns? Panchakarma is Ayurveda's ultimate reset, clearing toxins, balancing your doshas, and restoring your vitality from the inside out. At Soham Healing Resort, every detail is designed for your transformation. Personalized therapies, nourishing meals, and deep rest in a serene sanctuary. As an Ojas Oasis listener, you'll receive $500 off your Panchakarma retreat with code OJASOASIS PK2025. These retreats book quickly and often far in advance, so don't wait to reserve your place today. Visit sohamhealing.com/panchakarma, and you'll also find the link and code waiting for you in the show notes. If you're studying Ayurveda or want to learn from the most respected teachers in integrative medicine, this is for you. The 2026 NAMA Conference, Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine, is a global virtual gathering to connect ancient and modern medical science. Join a transformative online gathering of Ayurvedic practitioners, integrative medicine providers, herbalists, researchers, scholars, and yoga therapists. Over 3 days, you will engage in dynamic panel discussions and interactive breakout sessions, covering clinical outcomes, emerging research, and how Ayurveda professionals can meet the moment in today's evolving healthcare landscape. Whether you're a seasoned clinician, wellness advocate, or yoga teacher, this conference is your chance to connect, learn, and shape the future of holistic health. Register today at ayurvedanama.org from May 1st to May 3rd, 2026, and secure your spot. There's been so much research done recently on autism as a spectrum. It used to just be a blanket diagnosis, like someone was autistic or they weren't. And now they're realizing how many people actually fall on the spectrum of autism. So I'm wondering if there are, ways of seeing this through the gunas as well.
So there's not only a spectrum that we're on, and some schools of Ayurveda even have a rajas sattva or tamas rajas, variations of doing mental constitution. We are on a spectrum, and the way that with 20 years of working with this, 20 plus, I started studying Ayurveda in 1998, but actually using more the psychological elements, it's been about 20 years. And what I find is we have our sattva nature. We have, when we are in our sattvic mood, we have the sattvic part of us that shows up. And then we all get triggered at some point. Even the best of us, even the sages in the Vedic times would get triggered. And when we do get triggered, our rajas personality comes out. And then there's always the days that we're just done. We're exhausted. We don't want to deal with anything anymore. And this Tamas personality comes out. So we have the spectrum of what our base nature is. Somebody can be Sattva with a little Rajas, or Rajas with a little Tamas, and more to the Tamas spectrum, or something of this nature. But we all have a certain personality that lives inside of the Kalyana. We all have an agreeable face we can put on. We all have a triggered part of us that comes out. And we all have a place where we're just not dealing anymore with things.
It's interesting. You say Kalyana, and I have Kalyana Grittam here at the clinic. And it's renowned for the mind. Yeah. It's renowned for its benefits to the mind.
To the mind. And so it's helping you, it's cultivating the inherent proper working of the brain and the substantiating of the Sattva. So that you live more in your Kalyana personality. And one of the things that happens to us if we're really stressed in life, we're going to get more triggered. So that stress in life is bringing out our Rajas, that Rosha personality more, right? And when we're in health and we've had proper relaxation and we've just come back we actually took a day off, the Kalyana personality is much more available for us. That Sattva balanced personality, it's there. We're ready to listen because we're not stressed. And so those three go into 16. And those 16, like you've seen them mentioned as a list, but I don't see anybody talking about them, like and really utilizing them. And there's so many ways to utilize them, whether it's looking just at people's politics. You can you talk to somebody about their politics for a minute, you can see what manas prakriti they are, particularly in a time period where politics is very heightened. What at my lecture at NAMA, and I'm going to go a lot deeper at the California Association of Ayurvedic Medicine, is looking at how it impacts social media use. And really working, because social media is not leaving us. It's not leaving us. So how do we use social media to support Sattva and not Rajas and Tamas? And
please do tell. How do we?
Well, first we have to understand what are the 16 personalities, right? And then once we understand them and what kind of media each one uses, our goal is, what is the media the Sattva personalities pay attention to? How can we increase that social media? And then the Rajas and Tamas social media, what is the mark? And what is our type of Rajas social media? And that's the big thing, because we are really good at excusing our Rajas. We'll do this Rajas thing over here and over there, and we'll be like, oh yeah, but that's just, that's for me to, and we make a good excuse of why it educates us or why it helps us be active in something. But yeah, it's really just Rajas. Is it possible to share the screen for just a moment? All right. These are the 16 personalities. And so we can see there's the Sattva, which gives us the Kalyana mental personality types. We have the Rajas giving us the Rosha. And I like the word triggered, because this is when we're easily getting triggered, right? And then the Tamas gives us, it directly translates as stupefied, but they just avoid. And so we have 7 of the Sattva types. We have 6 of the triggered types, and we have 3 of the avoidant types. And it's amazing for the Tamas types how directly they match modern psychology research on avoidant personalities. Like literally fits it perfect.
Wow.
The Rosha, we are a little more diverse than what I've seen in the Western literature at the moment. And the Sattva, the West doesn't focus as much on health. They focus on what unhealth is. And so we look at these agreeable personalities to really understand well-being, because we want, which of these are we? Are we the Brahma, Rishi, Indra? And so, we want to know what's our type of Sattva. And by knowing what our type of sattva is, it says, where can we put our attention?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where can we focus so that we know what type of sattva to be increasing? And so the first one is the Brahma sattva.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a person who's community oriented. They're involved in the community. They're supporting people. Their sattva is to go out and to help the community events happen and to make sure that everybody's working well together. And they're moral, clean, upright individuals. Charka, he says, they don't have too much passion. They control their anger and their greed, and they avoid jealousy and getting too excited about things. They're grounded people who are just holding down the community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really beautiful, right? Then we have the Rishi Sattva, the Rishi personality. And the Rishi personality, they're the educators. They're always learning, reading books, teaching. They always have something to share. They're great for when we want to know, like a holiday comes up. What's the reason this holiday is here? They have tons of information on it. Their life revolves around learning and growing and things of that nature. And if we just compare the social media between those two, the Brahma personality, they're following social media things that are giving community updates. Their daughter's gym, they're following that and making sure that they're liking the other kids, and they're literally, their feed of social media is these wholesome things that are happening in their community. And when they look at their social media, they're like, wow, look who did this. Oh, they're actually celebrating life, right, and their community. When we look at the Rishi personality, they are, and like my social media, I have like maps showing up, and then the history of this and the history of this ancient place, and then the Indian archaeology shows up, and so I'm like, okay, my social media is telling me I'm a Rishi Sattva of my Sattva realm. Mm-hmm. And because all this educational material and information is constantly in my social media feed, and your social media knows what your constitution is. It knows your mental constitution. And so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these things, they know your manas prakriti. They've already diagnosed it and are making sure that it's being fed. So it's an important thing to understand that our social media is not neutral. They are specifically focused on what we want, our nature, because they know if they give us our nature, we'll spend more time there.
Because we feel seen.
Because we feel seen. These are the things that we care about. Then the third manas prakriti of the agreeable is the Indra. And they're the leaders. Mm-hmm. And I often say they're the Boy Scout leaders and the coaches of the soccer team, the person who's leading a business, and politics is really important to them. They're just running this more leadership realm. And each of these correlates to one of the traditional ancient planets, and this is the sun. So that sun is yeah. So all of these apply to the traditional Vedic archetypes, and they're very much about sovereignty, autonomy, goal setting. They're very disciplined individuals, and one of the qualities that stands out is that they look at the big picture. A good leader should not just care about the next election. A good leader should say, what's going to make our community better? Even if some people will be upset with me, if this happens, my grandkids are going to be safer. So the Indra personalities, they have the big view. Mm-hmm. And then next to that, we have the Yama personality. And the Yama personality, some people will translate him as the Lord of Death, but he's the Lord of Dharma. He's the person that makes sure that everything is happening the way it's supposed to. And he's a protector, so police, people who are in the military, these roles that are keeping things safe, keeping things orderly, where the Indra personality is this leader. The Yama personality is the enforcer, the protector, the making sure things are safe and good. And they're generally very into sports And I remember once I was in an airplane and I'm looking over at the guy scrolling next to me, and it was boxing and baseball and home run. And I'm like, none of that ever shows up in my feed. Like,
Right.
what? Like
Right.
none of it. And everything was so sports based. And you look at him, and he was the stereotypical military man and or police officer type of role, security guard, something of that nature. The yamas are also good for managing companies. What's the rule? Let's make sure everybody follows it. Let's make sure
Operations.
operations, right? So those are easily understood as sattva. Those are all types of sattva. A police officer is, if he's out there actually making sure that everybody's safe and protecting you, that's sattva, right? If there's a leader who's making sure that the country is going in the right direction, that's sattva. Then we have the Varuna sattva, and the Varuna sattva it's the simplest and the most complex. It's the simplest and the deepest. They're your average person who goes to work. They believe in right and wrong. And so they do right because they know if they don't do right, it's going to come back and bite them. And so they're good people. They live in an upright way. They go to work. They'll go to church on Sundays. They bring their sweetheart presents at the end of the week. They're sweet, grounded people. And I say it's simplest and deepest because it's simplest on a certain level of their life generally is a lot simpler than other people. But that opens up all these other deep reservoirs of exploration in them because they're not worried about the country going in the right direction or needing to know what the next rollout of the company is going to be. There's a simpler life. And so it allows different realms to become deep. And sometimes they can be the most spiritually deep because everything else is simple in their life. They're not tied up with knowledge. They're not tied up with community organizing. They have this deeper place of residing. Then we have the Kubera Sattva. And this is the next two are ones that a lot of times people don't have realms of Sattva. The Kubera Sattva are the business people, the people that make money. Kubera is like, Kubera literally is the god who we would say incarnated as Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. He's the deity who is the richest, most just rich. And so the Kubera Sattva, they're the people who they make money. They have businesses that make money. And you want to say, well, how's that Sattva? Sattva is about sustaining. If there's not somebody making an incredible business, the community doesn't grow and become prosperous. The country doesn't become prosperous. If the country becomes prosperous, there's social services, there's taxes collected, and healthcare is better. And the big business, if they're really successful, they can donate to the local football team and baseball team. And then there's some women's cancer awareness. They donate a whole bunch to that. They have the money to go to these things that don't make money on their own. So they sustain the community. They're so crucial. And if the community is financially sustained, there's less crime. There's less people beating their wife. There's less abuse happening on so many levels. So they bring prosperity into the community.
I can't help but also note the fact that they're paying most of the taxes too.
They pay most of the taxes. They're sustaining the wellness of everyone else. So it's a very important sattva. And some people, they're business people. The key is that they do ethical work in their business, that they make sure that their business is running ethically and the impact of their business is ethical. And that little difference makes it sattva. And so sattva is not what you're doing, but it's how you're doing.
Conscious capitalism.
Conscious capitalism, exactly. And then we have the Gandharva. And the Gandharva sattva that's our artists, our creatives, our dancers, our singers, the relationship coaches, the person that when you're married and you can't believe you married this person, like, what was I ever thinking to marry them? And you go to counseling and that thing that you thought he would change, that he'll never change, they'll work with you. And so the Gandharva sattva is all the creatives and relationship focus. It's the Venus tone. And so all of these are the sattvas. And so what's so important is that we get, where am I in the sattva realm? Am I the business person? Am I the creative? Am I going to go to work and make sure that society is balanced? Am I going to be the leader? We have to know, what is our sattva? And then in that, how do we do that sattva in a way that balances and makes a better world? And we can tell people, hey, be more sattva, go to bed early, this and all these kind of things. But I always say, why? If they don't have this deeper connection to what is their sattva, then they don't care about getting up early. If you get them in the path that is supporting their type of sattva, they want to get up in the morning because they got something that they're going to do. There's a reason to get up early. There's a reason to eat good and live a little longer. So finding the sattva is super crucial.
You have to speak to their interests.
You have to speak to their interests. Mm-hmm. And let's see, we talked about politics with the Indras, sports, health, fitness with the Yamas, the Varunas. They're also into fitness, health. They have a religious bent generally. They're really big into pets. Pets is a big thing on their feeds. The Kuberas, they're all about business, finance, modern technology, really practical, like how do we be successful type media. And the Gandharvas, all kinds of art and dancing and beautiful things, people making new jewelry or relationship coaching, how to have a better relationship techniques. I looked at my daughter and we sat down and I said, let's scroll through our social media together. She said, really, Dad, you want to see my social media? She's like, and I said, yes, let's see what, let's doom scroll and let's see what comes up.
Doom scroll.
And I was, let's doom scroll together. And I think it's an important thing that parents should do a little doom scrolling with their children's media. Like sit there and doom scroll with your kid on their phone. And your media should be good enough that if you doom scroll with your kid, yes, that's a good thing for your kid to be seeing. Mm-hmm. If it's not good for your kid to be seeing, really, do you want to be feeding it to yourself?
That's
right.
That's like a good kind of test, like testament to your own.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I doom scrolled with my daughter for a bit, and it was quotes about relationship and makeup tutorials. And I was like, okay, this is good. I have a Gandharva Sattva daughter here. I was happy. They were healthy relationship quotes about love and connection and nothing. The makeup type stuff there was no negative tones or anything of that nature to it. So I found it to be a Gandharva Sattva. So those are our 7 healthy expressions, right? Mm-hmm. That we want to find that balanced place for. Now we go into the 6 Rajas types. And the 6 Rajas types, we have this people that are triggered, we have control, we have manipulation. All the bad social media falls primarily under the Rajas. Mm-hmm. The Tamas is too lazy to have too much negative social media. Yeah, it's the Rajas that's out there making the real negative social media that disturbs the mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, for me, presenting this material is crucial because people that are depressed, people that have anxiety, people that have bipolar, we have to clean up their social media. Mm-hmm. They are being pumped day in and day out with messages and tones that are influencing the mind and what's revolving in the mind. So having that sattva social media is so crucial, and it actually helps ground them. It lowers their anxiety. If you see beautiful dances every time you look at your social media, there's going to be less depression. If you're looking at social media as an Indra personality and you're seeing political successes, seeing about how a certain country installed solar power and cleaned up their air and things of that nature, stories like that are coming up in your social media. Wow. If you followed the right people and that's what's coming up, how can you not have a more positive feeling and less anxiety about the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have pet names for all the Rajas types, just to
Just to make
just
it
for
fun.
timing. It's easier also to remember.
Uh-huh.
So the first Rajas, Rosha personality, is the Asura. And I like to call it the fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about quality. They just want to get followers. They just want to be seen. They just want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So I call it the fake it till you make it, because they don't care about quality. They just push through. And they tend to be very critical. They're critical of themselves, but because they know they should be, but instead they externalize that criticalness. So they get very critical of other people. And when it goes to negativity, they love self-help gurus, the fake gurus. They love quick get rich quick schemes. They have a tendency to fall into disinformation. And disinformation is different than, and we'll see a few different types of information. Disinformation is things that if you really evaluate it, you know it's not true. But they push it because they're like, yeah, I don't like that politician. I'm going to push this. Even though it seems absurd, they still push it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go down this disinformation realm, this critical realm. If we look at the political spectrum, we can see somebody who was everybody loved 10 years ago, all of a sudden everybody hates them. And that's a very fake it till you make it critical approach that's coming from the Asura Rajas. Mm. Then we have the Rakshasa. And the Rakshasa, they're the troll. They and literally, and Rakshasa doesn't directly translate as troll, but that's the word that we use when they show up in our media. Mm-hmm. That person who's trolling us, that's the Rakshasa. They're jealous and degrading. Mm-hmm. They get it to deal with their jealousy. They put things down. There's an aggressive nature to them. Mm-hmm. And by being aggressive, they feel like they put other people in their place. Their social media will have hate speech, trolling, making fun of people. Yeah, there's an aggressive, violent nature.
Like a bully.
There is a bully.
Oh, that's a different one?
Our next personality is bully. Okay. They're aggressive. The bully, the big thing is they degrade you because of what you are. Mm. The bully will call you things that you're not, that hurt you.
Okay.
Right? And it's a little different.
Okay. Slightly nuanced. Mm-hmm.
Slightly nuanced. And the thing is, the Rakshasa comes more from they're jealous, and so they degrade. Mm-hmm. Like their way to control is to degrade. If they can degrade you and troll you, if you have to respond to a troll, you're no longer doing what you want, you're doing what they want. Mm. So they've just taken control by being a troll, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So we have the fake it till you make it, then we have the troll. Mm. Then we have the Pisashcha. And the Pisashcha literally means like a goblin.
This doesn't sound good. It does not sound good.
And they're the bullies.
Okay. Makes sense.
They're the bullies. Yeah. And so they put other people down to deal with their insecurity. Mm. So in their insecurity, they bully other people. And it's very interesting, but Charaka mentions that the bullies generally tend to be the one with sexual issues. They have sexual addictions that they can't control and things of that nature. And that toxic mindset makes it so they're bullying others because they know that they shouldn't be doing something. And so by trying to make other people feel like they're doing something they shouldn't, makes them feel better. Now, the bully is often pushing misinformation. And the difference between misinformation and disinformation is misinformation, they don't know, like they're not intending to harm somebody with the wrong information. They're just like, look at so-and-so, like a little bit more laughing at them. Where the Asura, they're trying to control the person, to control the narrative in that way. So we have the fake it till you make it, critical. We have the troll that's aggressive. We have the bully that there's some toxic stuff that they're dealing with inside. Then we have the snake. And that one's literally direct translation. It's sarpa, snake.
Mm-hmm.
And the snake is very manipulative. Just like we always say, that person's what a snake, right? They're manipulative, and they tend to be the gaslighters. They say things. They say, and for them, it's malinformation. They'll make up rumors. They won't just. They're not just sharing something that they don't know is wrong. They're literally happy to make something up to control the situation. So we can see as we dig into these rajas types, they go this is our deepest, darkest. And the thing is, we all have one of these in us. Every one of us has one of these Rosha personalities that when we feel out of control, that we can go to make it so that we're not feeling out of control. And it's very important that we, sometimes people are like, oh, I have none of them. And it's like, if you don't have anyone, my joke is then you need to see a therapist.
Right, because you don't know yourself as well as you think you do.
And that means that you're being really not well in your relationship. And if you know what you are and you're working on it, oh my gosh, that you're on the path to Sattva. Mm-hmm. You're on the path to Sattva when you acknowledge which of these live inside of you. Mm-hmm. Which of these is your nature? There's 2 more of the 6 rajas types. And that's the preta, which is the ghost. And the preta, the ghost, the best word for the ghost is FOMO, fear of missing out. There's this feeling of lack. And with that feeling of lack, and the preta personality has become very popular in politics of the last, decade or so, in that it's all about anti. They're against. I won't stand for this. I won't do this. Down with let's overthrow this. Down with that. Anti this, anti that. The Sattva personality goes out into the community and makes something better. They don't need to tear anything down. They go in, and if something's not being done right, they take the role of community organizer to make it happen. The intrapersonality will say, if the city isn't doing it, I'm going to run for mayor and I'll make sure that gets done. Mm-hmm. The Yama personality, it's going to do its own way. Okay, let me find a way.
Fundraise for the good candidate.
For the good candidate.
They'll do the campaign. They'll lead the campaign.
Good campaign mm-hmm. there. Yeah. So the Sattva is always supporting. Like they don't spend too time focusing on the negative. They spend their time on how do we make things better? What do we need for it to be successful here? The preta is anti. It's this ghost. There's something I don't have down, and it's your fault. And so there's this external blame of this feeling of lack. I don't have this. I don't have that because of you. And often their yous are very abstract concepts that they are literally their own fault because they could take on one of these sattva roles and make it better. Mm-hmm. But FOMO culture, it's that fear of missing out, and lack culture and anti-culture. That's the ghost's personality. And then we have the shakuna, which means bird, the bird personality. And that's our last rajas. And the bird personality is always focused on looking good. Mm-hmm. It's all about looking good. It's all about being validated. They have a tendency to say, "Oh my gosh, your makeup looks so good, and I love this," and they're just waiting for you to return the compliment. It's this over complimenting because they want the compliment. One of the, at least in our cult, in American culture, there's this thing called hookup culture. People just want to go out and have 2 dates in one night. It's like, why do you what's that do for you? It doesn't fill anything deep in your soul to have 2 dates in one night. It makes you feel like you have some value. You're feeling a lack of value. So you're looking for 2 dates. That way 2 people are appreciating you, and then maybe you have some value, right?
Way to explain all the personality types, also to explain how all of them approach dating, like the dating apps, how they use dating apps, The same way they use social media, right? It's the
Yeah.
same. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah. And so there's a real trying to make yourself feel better by looks and compliments and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So those are um, our six rajas, and we have to really evaluate our social media and see because the social media knows which of these you are. They 110% know what your fault is and what triggers you. And the reason they want to know what triggers you is because they know that if they do 2 or 3 videos or images that trigger you, when they put a commercial, you're more likely to buy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're triggered, you're more likely to engage in a product. So they want you triggered. They want you rajas. It's literally built into all the social media systems.
And it's a way to get you to follow the accounts that create that kind of content, because also those creators create ads to get followers.
Exactly.
So it goes back, right?
It's that cycle. So the key for mental health is really finding where is our rajas. Are we following all these anti this, anti that? Are we following these, how am I going to get more dates type of stuff? Are we following disinformation, misinformation? Like these, like, do you really need to follow every, oh my gosh, so-and-so got called out for this. Let's find out how many boyfriends she actually did have.
The gossip. Like, you're talking about gossip.
Just gossip. You don't need this. You don't need this. You want the sattva. So it's so important that we go in, and it's hard sometimes because we're so attached to our raja social media. Mm-hmm. But unfollow. And I tell people, just go unfollow 3 of your rajas and then replace that with 3 sattva accounts that are really doing positive things, and they're showing positive information of your sattva. And it's hard to do all 25 of those rajas ones. Just do 3. Next month, do 3 more. And that way we're upping what we're being fed, our sattva.
What are a couple examples of like a sattvic account, or kind of, when you say replace this with this, what kind of accounts would qualify to be sattvic?
Like one of the things I love for more sattvic media is Banyan. If you follow Banyan or what are they doing? They're giving little tips, and half those tips we as Ayurvedic practitioners we all already know. But it's like, oh yeah, that or that's a nice way to say that, or oh, I can let me make sure that it brings all these things up and keeps them in our memory. And if we sit there and we see they're like, it's the change of seasons, make sure you're doing this and that, and you were already doing it, but now you're thinking about it. Now you're thinking about that change of seasons and what do I need to do for the change of seasons? Beautiful. How beautiful is that to put you in the sattva instead of being angry at some politician?
Right.
And being like, I hate that guy. I hate that guy. I can't believe. You don't want to walk around saying, I hate that. I hate that. I can't, like, oh, this is so terrible. No, you want to be thinking about the seasons are changing, or there's a new initiative. Like one of the things I just saw, because I'm involved in community politics, the recent Republican Party, they just in California are pushing some legislation to make it so that anybody who's white supremacist or anti-Semitic or any type of extremism, they literally can remove them from the party. They're just like, if these people are part of our party, they hurt all of us. And so let's make it so there's just a clear method when there's extremism to remove this. Oh my goodness. That's what exciting news that there's active work to remove extremism happening. And that's in California. So like this, there's for each of our sattva types, for the Gandharva type, the artist, dances, musicals, there's plenty of creators out there doing all kinds of dances. And there's this one artist that I follow. He's always doing different deities and things of that nature. It's I love it. There's this one archaeologist I follow. He's always, look at this and this coin, and then he gives the whole storyline and the stelas, and great. I learned more about the world in that moment and connected 5 dots to all these other places. So we want to each month, if we can, delete, and each month until we get to where we have healthy social media. And Ayurveda is all about little by little. You don't have to.
Yes.
You don't have to. If somebody smokes 5 cigarettes a day, just smoke 4, and then after a few months, smoke 3. Ayurveda is not drastic. It's not extremist. And so our social media, remove 3 Rajas accounts, 3 that are just, it's too much Rajas, and increase by 3. That way you're changing your logarithm.
I love it. That's a very friendly and sustainable way to curate and refine our social media intake. Like these impressions that we're getting, we're most people are on social media every day, and the headlines you're seeing, the images you're seeing, they're being drilled into your consciousness.
And they impact our nervous system. They directly impact our nervous system. And when we're healthy, we can deal with it. Our nervous system can hold it. But if you have a time period of depression or anxiety, that will exacerbate it tenfold. I've seen even people go, like, their social media can put them in the panic attacks if they're too sensitive. So we don't need to go too deep into it, because it's the Rajas, if we're focused on social media, that really matter the most. The Tamas personalities, the social media doesn't overly focus on them, because they don't click on the ad. They're too lazy to click on the ad. If they click on the ad, they got to get their wallet out. They got to do maybe tomorrow I'll get it. And so they don't buy. And so the social media,
they're the ones who forget their password, and then they're too lazy to go find it. So then they never sign on or something.
And so the Tamas social media doesn't really gear to the Tamas types, but to well round us out, there's 3 types. And one is called the animal, the other is called the fish, and the other is called, and I like to translate it as the blockhead. And it literally, if direct translation would be tree, but it literally is, by tree, the person thinks that they're like a tree. And in English, we have what a blockhead, right? It's like their head is just a piece of wood. And that's literally what the third one is. So the first Tamas is, they call it, it's not just an animal, but a domesticated animal. It's like literally the cow that's tied up, that just is sitting there chewing what it wants, or the pig that's just expecting its food to come. And so the only thing they focus on is food and sex. And if it doesn't feed them or up their sex life, then they don't really care. All 3 have this avoidant nature. The middle one is the fish, and they call it the fearful avoidant, meaning, like, if we think about a fish are very skittish, right? But yet when you throw some food in the water, there's like all these fish come and eat it like crazy, and then they run away real fast again. And so this is this personality, this tamas. They avoid, they don't deal with, and they almost have a bulimia to life. Like they'll gorge on certain things, and then they go back and ignore.
They dissociate, sounds like.
Well, all the tamas disassociate. The animal will literally lose their job because they were, had to go do some sexual act with somebody, and then they get in trouble at work and lose their job and can't pay their bill. That's the animal tamas. The fish, they overreact. They have this very intense, and then they're back to their avoidant self. So they call it fearful avoidant in the modern terminology. And then we have the blockhead, and that's the disassociated avoidant. They don't care. Sure. They eat, they sleep. It's a very simple, not thinking realm of life. As long as you don't bother them, they don't bother you. You tell them the whole story, and afterwards they'll be like, yeah, what are we having for dinner tonight? And you're like, I just told you about this terrible thing that happened in my life, and do you not care? And yeah, sure, I care. And what's for dinner? It's, yeah. So the Tamas types, we don't have to work too hard to get that out of our social media, because the social media is not
It's not geared for them
dating.
anyway.
It's not geared for them. It's
Mm-hmm.
really geared to find where's your rajas and how can we activate your rajas.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is, and when I say our goal, and I'm saying our goal is Ayurvedic practitioners,
Mm-hmm.
particularly when we have a client that has depression, anxiety, or any type of mental health stuff. If we give them some herbal medicines and a breathing technique, and they're sitting there following these accounts that are making them think the world is going to end tomorrow, and oh my gosh, like we're whatever the storyline is, it's they're the anxiety, it's egging on that anxiety, it's disrupting the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So I make it a point to discuss with clients that have mental health issues that I'm addressing. I make it a point to address social media.
Mm.
And it doesn't take too long. Like literally bring up politics and a few other things, and you'll see which of these rajas people are falling into. And then once you kind of get where their rajas is, you can go a little deeper into the other elements of that rajas, and you'll see it's like clock. It's
Mm-hmm.
the puzzle comes
It reveals
together.
itself.
It
Yeah.
reveals itself. And then I bring up, I'm like, so is there anybody, like, who do you get most of this information from? And then they tell me, and then I'm like, can we unfollow them for 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, for six, they can't. And I'm like, let's just unfollow just for 6 months. And I give them 6 months, and at 5 months, then you check in and you say, look how good it's been to not follow that.
Mm-hmm.
Can we leave that off until you're 100% better? And a lot of times people are like, if they've been doing their work, they're like, I'm so glad that's out of my life, that I'm not, like, everything is working just fine without knowing what's happening on the Mexican border, right? Or everything's working just fine in my life without all these extra details that didn't support their sattva.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that to me is, I think, a great introduction to the Ayurvedic personality types and how we can very consciously, actively utilize them. And the social media, it's a right here, right now. It's technique.
Yeah, this is so interesting to put a spotlight on conscious social media use. Well, understanding the 16 subdivisions of the gunas, and then you can see it in everywhere you go in real life and on social media. And I think actually catering this episode towards social media use specifically really helps, I think, like modernize this conversation.
Modern. Yeah,
it's
totally.
very modernized. It's like, this is bringing something super ancient into something that's relatively very new, that we haven't had enough time on social media to really be able to study the long-term impacts on the brain. And like you said, it's not only the mind, it's the nervous system, which the mind is part of the nervous system, but like our nervous system impacts our digestion. It impacts our relationships. It impacts our energy, our ability to sleep, our everything. So it's all very connected. And I'm so happy that you are talking about this. You're absolutely right that not enough people are talking about conscious social media use in this holistic sense. So I think it's a very important, very, very important conversation.
And I think maybe I'll connect with some Gandharva Sattva person, and we can make a whole how this shows up in dating element as well.
I think that's modern dating. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Because all of these personalities will show up in how do you date? How do you treat your partner? Mm-hmm. And all the rajas characteristics. And the thing is, as I said, we all have one. So it could be two, and it's a spectrum. We might have one a lot, another a little bit, and then there's the one that we just don't touch. Like, I will never go to making something up that's not true, or someone else, they'll jump there right in a minute. Someone else well, I would never shame somebody. Someone else, they might jump right into shaming their partner for something that was done because they didn't like it happen. And so, which understanding which of these we are is also going to improve our relationship
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
very drastically.
Mm-hmm. And I think also having enough right knowledge about all these layers of all these human beings. First of all, we've had many, I think, different versions of ourselves throughout our own lifetime as well. One thing that I would have loved to touch on, but I know we probably don't have time in this episode, but the way that, transits in our astrology chart, kind of like how they can shift our gunas, because it's not fixed for your whole lifetime. Different transits are also impacting what layers of ourselves are getting right, because the planets are also just different parts of our personality as well. So I think like we can see a lot of these different personality types through different versions of ourselves as we go through life.
As far as transits go, we generally will have, like for me, I tend to be in the Brahma, social community organizer, the Rishi, knowledge studying, and Indra, leadership roles. Like those are the three. But there's like which one is primary? And then when we have transits and planetary time periods, maybe one that wasn't primary will become primary and the other one will become secondary. But the core elements are always there.
Okay.
They're a bit of your core nature, but the spectrum kind of moves a little bit.
Okay, so nothing really drastically changes. The core is pretty fixed.
Rarely. I mean, occasionally you have the person who's crazy Rajas partying and then becomes a saint or something of that nature. And that happens, but that's not your standard, not the standard life unfolding.
Do you want to give us a fun little Jyotish insight as to how you can see this in a chart within like 5 minutes?
Oh, no, it's a little more
complex. You can't do it? Okay. I figured,
but
I just...
Yeah, for the sattvas, just as a simple, for the sattvas, it generally becomes a prominent and strong planet. Okay. And sometimes we can have multiple, and that's why there can be multiple of these personalities showing up. And my teacher, he always says, when there is these multiple strong planets, one will win. And in that one winning, as an example, my best friend, he has the Gandharva Sattva and he has the Rishi Sattva. And he's a Chinese medical doctor, Ayurvedic doctor, and Tibetan medical doctor, as well as does Jyotish and plays music. But he studies with some of the greatest musicians out there. But he had this, and I remember the moment about 10, 15 years ago where he needed to stop playing the Rudravina because it calloused his fingers. And he couldn't take pulse with the calloused fingers in the same way. And so it was almost his life path. He had a Rishi Sattva or Gandharva Sattva here. Rishi Sattva or Gandharva Sattva, right? And he put, and then he changed over to
become ambidextrous and just played instrument with one hand, right? He could have, I don't know.
He went over to classical Indian violin that doesn't mess with his fingers, but it became secondary because it's not.
It's a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and so one does become primary if we fully pursue it, because we only have so much time in life as well.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay.
You're welcome.
16 subdivisions of the gunas. No one else is teaching this, I don't think.
I don't think so.
So what a treat to have you on. Thank you so much for sharing this with us and our community. And thank you for continuing to share it with the community at large, both in the United States, all around the world. I know you have so many conferences coming up this year. Where can people find the upcoming?
So there's a 15-minute, and actually we almost went deeper than the previous lecture that I did, but California Association of Ayurvedic Medicine 2026 conference is where I'll be doing another 50 minutes on this, going a little deeper in a few different directions and lot of overlap to this. And then eventually this will be a chapter in a book on Ayurvedic yoga therapy psychology. So
beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you for your ongoing study, devotion, contribution to all of this knowledge. We're grateful to have you, Freedom.
Thank you.
Before you go, if you're ready to dive deeper into your healing, check the show notes to book a 45-minute exploratory call with me. If you mention you're a subscriber of the podcast, you'll get 50% off your initial intake consultation. A 2-hour deep dive, normally $400, now just $200. You'll also find exclusive 20% discounts on trusted Ayurvedic herbs from Kerala Ayurveda and Gary & Son. Just click the links to apply the savings automatically. Ojas Oasis is a labor of love, a podcast born from a deep desire to share the timeless wisdom of Ayurveda, Vedic ritual, and holistic healing with seekers around the world. Every episode is carefully crafted to bring you inspiring conversations, ancient insights, and practical tools for living a radiant, balanced life. If the show has nourished your spirit, helped you feel more seen, or guided you on your healing path, you can now support our work by buying us a coffee or golden milk. Your support goes directly toward producing high-quality episodes, keeping the podcast ad-light and mission-focused, expanding our offerings to serve you even more deeply, and whether it's a one-time cup or a monthly offering, we are so grateful. Click the link in the show notes to support the podcast and keep the wisdom flowing.